Hey everyone, so I played Dead Island 2 for the first time over the weekend, and I gotta say, it's truly awesome. In this video, I'm gonna dive into why that is, why Dead Island 2 was so awesome, and why you should consider picking up the game. Just as a heads up, I have received a key from the publisher for Dead Island 2, which is what this gameplay is from, and if you use my referral code in the description to buy the game, I am going to receive some compensation for that as well. Just keep that in mind as you try to make a purchase or not for Dead Island 2. So let's talk about the history of Dead Island real quick to kind of understand how we got to where we are today. The first game, Dead Island, came out in 2011 from the developer Techland and published by Deep Silver. So this game came out on PS3 and the 360. It later got a 2013 sequel slash standalone DLC called Dead Island Riptide, and I think that's actually a forgotten game in this series. What was really, really cool, and one thing I loved about Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide is your character could transfer. The original developer of the game, Techland, they moved on to make Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2 after the release of Dead Island Riptide. So Jaeger pitched the idea of Dead Island 2 to Deep Silver, and this is when they were kind of coming off the heels of Spec Ops: The Line, which was really well received and one of my favorite games of all time. Deep Silver liked the pitch that Jaeger made, so they signed them on to be the developer for Dead Island 2, and they were developers until July 2015. And I really think that this is where we kind of see the setting and most of what we see in the game aesthetically kind of take place. So there was like that really awesome E3 trailer. I think that was like 2014 maybe of the Dead Island 2 trailer. It was really, really awesome, showing some of the iconic areas around San Francisco and LA. However, for some reason, I don't really know the reason why when I was doing my research, but Jaeger was actually removed from the game in July in 2015, and a new development studio, Sumo Digital, they were brought in to finish the game. Now, Sumo Digital, I think, is they've had some good games and they've had some bad games. They can be a studio that will help finish other projects that are in distress. I think a notable one is Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3 went through a similar development hell that Dead Island 2 did. And when Crackdown 3 came out, it was just kind of it was kind of okay. Sumo Digital also made Little Big Planet 3 and Sackboy: Big Adventure, and the latter was actually pretty well received by fans. So Sumo Digital has a wide talent for the games that they create. However, in 2019, August of 2019, Deep Silver announced that the game had moved on to a third developer, Dambuster Studios. Now, these guys are the creators of the ill-received Homefront: The Revolution. A lot of people did not like that. So that was a little alarming to me personally, that not only had the game moved on to its third developer, which is really, really unusual, but the developer they chose did not have a good track record. However, Dead Island 2 finally released on April 23rd, 2023, almost 10 years in development in total. And it's been about 10 years since the last entry we got, which was Dead Island Riptide. So that's how we got here. Now let's talk about the game itself, Dead Island 2. Visually, the game is very different from its original entry. It's absolutely gorgeous. It runs at 60 frames per second on PS5. However, the gameplay elements are very similar to the first game. There's an emphasis on collecting materials, and you use those materials to craft new weapons. Melee combat is very important in this game. There are firearms later in the game, much like Dead Island 1. You can craft weapons, as I had said. Kicking zombies is an important mechanic, as well as blocking zombie attacks. You can throw your weapons to do some damage and throw other items at the zombies, and you can use elemental effects like electrocuting zombies. A lot of what I just described is present in the first game, with some new additions like, I don't know if drop kicking was in the first game or not, but the way that you can kind of craft your character and its abilities based on this card system is really cool as well, and I really like that. If you've played the first game or you're a fan of the first game, you'll even see Easter eggs and even characters from the first game in Dead Island 2. I don't think this is a spoiler very much because this happens within like the first 15 minutes, but you even see characters make a direct impact to the story from Dead Island 1 into Dead Island 2. And I thought that that was really cool because it not only rewards players who have played the original games, but it actually builds upon that story, yet it doesn't require you to play the first game to really understand what's going on. So I love that, this is a completely new team. It's been, as I said, 10 years since the release of the last game, and yet they're still kind of building on this universe without kind of creating something new and abandoning the original material. I think that's really awesome. I personally love the game overall, and it's really just more Dead Island, I think, for better or for worse, depending on how you feel about the first game. The first game has a very strong influence on this game, and Dead Island 2, and I still recommend you play the first two games, Dead Island 1 and Riptide. You can get them really cheap, like $5 or so, digitally when it goes on sale. And like I said earlier, you can transfer your character from Dead Island 1 into Riptide, and so you can kind of continue that story and then, experience Dead Island 2 for what it is. Dead Island 2 also supports co-op, and the way its campaign is kind of set up is you play in these open world, smaller areas. It's not a truly fully open world. You kind of load into different areas in Dead Island 2, and I personally think that that's a relief for me. Not every game requires a huge open world to explore, and I think that it was really smart that Dan Buster here said, you know what, we're going to kind of use these open world areas. For example, it was like a whole neighborhood. The Bel Air neighborhood is like the first neighborhood you get into in Dead Island 2. And you can run across all these different houses, and there's side quests and collectibles and secrets to unlock. And I love it. You can spend a couple of hours experiencing the story and everything that that area has to offer, and then you move on to the next area. And I think that's really cool, and that actually leans into a positive for Dead Island 2. It doesn't need to be this giant open world, and I think maybe even some people have open world fatigue. They're tired of all these open world games, so the fact Dead Island 2 isn't linear, and it's not open world fully, it's somewhere in between. I'd say kind of like, honestly, how the first game is, and Borderlands. Both of those games have kind of these open areas that you can explore, and then you load into the next one as the story progresses. I think that works great in this game. The voice acting is really well done. The cutscenes are really well done. Again, it's graphically gorgeous. I think there's actually some really funny dialogue lines throughout this game. The way that you can actually just dismember these zombies, you can really see, like, the physics of this game is insane. You can take, you'll pick up, like, a pipe or something, and when you swing it at the zombies, not only can you hear the cracking of, like, the zombies' arms, but you'll visually see, like, their arm break down as you, like, hit their arm. And if you hit it enough, you'll actually see the bone, like, start sticking out. It's really gory and awesome. You can even see, like, for example, you can swing it at their jaw, and their jaw will actually fly off. I mean, it's really, really intense and realistic, I would say, on how the melee combat works in Dead Island 2. And that's something that is so cool to see, and it's truly a blast to play in the minute-to-minute gameplay. Makes it so much fun, and the game offers so many different ways to play with the melee weapons, the environmental and elemental effects that you can have on the zombies, as well as crafting your own weapons, throwing objects, doing other sort of special abilities. The game really allows you to kind of find a playstyle that you really like on how you like to destroy the zombies, and you can really lean into that. So overall, to kind of really wrap up this video, I'm very impressed with Dead Island 2. I think it's even more impressive that it's been through this development hell for so long, and it came out. Not only did it come out great, and I'm sad that you have to kind of reward a game for doing this, it actually works on launch, which is sad because I feel like that should be the standard, and that never happens. So the fact that the game works, and it works well on launch, is very impressive. So do I recommend that you pick up Dead Island 2? Yes. I think you should also keep in mind that I have received a key for the game, and if you use my referral code in the description, I'll receive compensation for that. So I don't want that to deter you from doing your own research and seeing if Dead Island 2 is worth a pickup. I just personally recommend the game, and I thought it was a blast to play. All right, so that's going to do it for me. Let me know your thoughts on Dead Island 2. Do you like the game? Did you play the first game? And where do you see the series going in the future? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Well, I streamed Dead Island 2 a few days ago, and I might continue that over on our Twitch page. So if you're interested, check us out on Twitch. Link to that is also in the description. Okay, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody. And I'll see you, James.